from Kingsville, and nobody's perfect, but if you're from Kingsville, you're pretty close. But my esteemed colleague from Leamington had pointed out that I spelled "your" wrong. There should be an apostrophe "re," so proven right away that not that good. So this is the potential boring part of my presentation, because how we deal with Phragmites in Kingsville is through the Drainage Act. And the Drainage Act is basically a drainage system designed to convey surface water and deposit it into a sufficient outlet. Most of the drains are open ditches. We have some drains that are closed, but they aren't having issues with Phragmites, so we'll deal with open ditches. Most of them are in the rural area within the town. I deal with farmers on a daily basis, and extremely important for the agricultural community. Back in the day, the person with the highest elevation always won the drainage battle. Rain would hit his land and would percolate through down to the lower levels. That was an issue because people at the bottom took all the water from the top. Every drain that's a municipal drain has to be approved by council, and it has a corresponding bylaw with it, which gives it a legal existence. A drain without a bylaw doesn't allow for cost sharing. That's the big part of a municipal drain, because, as we said before, it's a communal project. Everyone that drains into the drain, which is identified by an engineer's report, has to pay for maintenance on that drain. Without legal existence, that can't happen. Once it becomes legal, it's municipal infrastructure. I and Luann and every other drainage superintendent are, I guess there's a term, we're stewards of the drain. We're responsible for maintaining the drain. Doesn't mean that we can just arbitrarily go and do maintenance on the drain. We have to speak with some of the main players on the drain, but if there's a problem, they call us, we go investigate, and we fix the problem. Like I said, any cost to do that gets assessed back to the people identified in the drainage area. So I get a lot of calls to come out and investigate situations within a municipal drain, and those calls are somewhat cordial. They want me to go out, take a look at the problem, but because it's a community project, they can expect a bill for some of that work that we did. Sometimes that's the reaction I get from the property owners when they call me, because they're happy that I go out and fix a problem, but then when they get the bill, and not everyone from Kingsville, I have to say that, not everyone from Kingsville has that reaction. That's probably mostly from Leamington, that type of reaction. Without a microphone, I can make the crowd do this. Our 2016 Phragmites program. As you can see, I'm also a firefighter within the town of Kingsville, which actually gives me, it's a great learning experience on how to deal with Phragmites. Sometimes as a drainage superintendent, we have small little problems, and it's like a bank failure, not a big issue. Maybe an obstruction within the drain, not a big issue. Just like that little fire I was putting out there, not a big issue. The training as a firefighter that comes in handy is Phragmites, because Phragmites to me is this. It's a big issue. It's something that we need to tackle, but we have to be aggressive without being reckless. Luann and I added this picture to my slideshow because, as you'll learn later on, we can't just apply any product over top of the Phragmites. Doesn't mean that we can't be aggressive and tackle it with the situation. Like, as the situation gets bigger and bigger, we have to tackle it with products that are allowed by the government. I'll get into that in a little bit, but they need to supply us with enough tools in the toolbox to deal with that. The land's really miffed about this drainage map that I keep putting on here, so that's why I keep putting it on here. We have over 350 drains in the town of Kingsville.
How many?
400 drains in the town of Kingsville. Some of the concerns of farmers: impeding flow in municipal drains. There are some farmers within the town that as soon as the water hits the surface of the field, they want that conveyed to the municipal drain. That expectation sometimes is unrealistic, but we certainly want to strive for getting the surface water off of the fields as quickly as possible. If the drain is backed up because of frag, because as frag grows into a ditch, it impedes the flow, and tiles are underwater and they aren't functioning properly. Delays in farming operations. Not this past spring, but I think the spring of 2015, we had, it seemed like, rain every day, at least every other day, and some of the farmers actually didn't get crop in because of the extensive rain events that we had that year. So any delay in farming operations will, or potentially, cause a loss of crop, and that's a loss of revenue. And farmers don't like that when they lose money, nor any business would like that if they lost money. Not so much a farming issue, sightline issues. And when you come to an intersection, you have frag that's upwards of 12 to 20 feet high, tough to see around. And it's probably incumbent upon our municipal staff to clear that sightline issue, so we're not responsible for any potential accidents. So all of that being said, I think it was in 2013, 2014, somewhere around there, that the farmers came to council, and they talked to council and they wanted to develop a strategy. They came all nice and organized, but before they came to council, they sent a couple of representatives to talk to me because they wanted me to come up with a plan. Here are the two representatives that they sent to talk to me. Sometimes farmers get a little aggressive, but they generally come around. Do the most good with the least amount of harm. What I said about being aggressive without being reckless, we have to use the tools in the toolbox that the government gives us. Our method that we use in Kingsville is called a wet blade. That is basically, as you'll see some pictures later on, it's just a boom arm on a mower, or on a tractor that goes along the bottom of the ditch and it cuts the frag. That's what people see. But as it's cutting, herbicide drips onto the blade, hence the wet blade. And as it cuts, it applies herbicide to the cut stalk. Now, as you saw before, there was a gentleman on the IRCA presentation, on Kevin's presentation, Frank Paterno. We had Frank in the town of Kingsville in 2010, I believe. And you saw Frank with a big spray going over the frag. They were in Hillman Marsh, which was basically a secluded area. We were going along the roadside with that spray. In Kingsville, we have several sensitive crops. We have tomatoes, we have greenhouses. Potentially, that would be a hazard to injure crop within that area. And just perceptually, it didn't work for us. So now we have contractors that just cut the frag, but it also applies a herbicide. So it's effective. And Frank said too that it doesn't translocate through the stem. I would challenge him on that because we have evidence in Kingsville that it actually does. Application rate is 4.5 to 5% with a 1% surfactant. peanut oil. That's a sticker. That makes it stick to the plant. So I wanted to use Frank as another example of his license plate on his truck is called Phragman. So you kind of want to pick somebody's name that actually has Phragman on his license plate, because you figure that, well, he might know something. So he always said to me, Kenny, and you kind of saw how he talked there. He said, Kenny, this is what we use to put onto the plant, because he was dumping 2 big, huge jugs of Roundup, I think, at the time. I asked him, I said, Frank, why are you putting so much stuff on there? And he said, Kenny, we're here to kill the plant, not just hurt it. So we always go 4.5 to 5%. Now, I have deputy mayor and councilor here. We had a $60,000 budget for 2 years, and I asked if we could increase it to $85,000. Now, we have had, I think, at least one budget session, and I haven't heard back that it got cut yet, so that's why it's $85,000 here. It's not really in pen, but I can adjust it if I have to. But hopefully it gets bumped up to $85,000. Now, if you remember, everything that I do gets charged back to the ratepayers, or to the landowners that get assessed into the drain. So initially we have a layout of, $85,000, but we can recoup that. Out of that $85,000, Luann from Leamington, who you'll hear in a little bit, her and I were thinking that we maybe put some of that aside, maybe use some of Leamington's money that she doesn't know yet, that we can maybe have another forum like this, because education along with application, I think, is key. So hopefully we'll have some of that money go towards educating the public. Like I said, all assessed properties pay for maintenance, and that includes town roads, because we're part of the landowner group. County roads, I see Don's here, Don Dewar, used to be for the county. They pay into it. And provincial highways, number 3 highway, they pay into, if they're assessed to drain, they pay their portion. Here's a machine. Lyle Hall is one of our contractors, sun parlor machine. And as you can see, it just looks like a mower, but it's actually applying herbicide to it. There's some of the frag that we're dealing with. I think this is actually off a county road, right, Lab?
10th concession.
Exactly. Like I said, it's a 10th concession. So it doesn't, like, perceptually, it looks like we're just cutting, but we're actually applying herbicide to it. So farmers, they see this. They're excited. They're happy. Their reaction is this. They see Lyle out there cutting. They see Casey for Snell out there cutting. This is their reaction. Now, the recovery of costs, like I said, $85,000 goes out right away. We have a director of finance who gets a little excited about getting that money back. So her reaction, if it was a her, would be this, because she wants that money right away. So that's where I got to go right away and start, invoicing the properties that are assessed for the drain that we just maintained. A lot of people from Kingsville look famous, right? But they're actually lookalikes. And how we do this, we use the most recent engineer's report to determine cost assessment. On the engineer's report, a property, let's say of 100 acres, would pay more than a 3/4 acre parcel of land, because they contribute more water. Water hits their field and it goes into the drain, but it hits 100 acres as opposed to a 3/4 acre parcel of land. Now, farm fields are generally classified the lowest because a lot of the water drains into the field. If it was a parking lot, a hard surface parking lot, they would pay more because the water doesn't have a chance to go into the ground. It goes directly to the drain. We send invoices to all the affected properties. And again, range of emotions. Happy to see us out there. Not so happy when they get the bill. But they eventually pay it. they eventually pay it after calling me, saying, what did you do? Why do I have to pay this much? And you have to explain to them, because rightfully they need to know. But after 2 or 3 weeks of that, I'm that guy in that back seat going, man, stop with the phone calls. Just stop with the phone calls. We plan to contribute. Can everybody hear me here good? Everything good? Okay. Continue frag maintenance 2017 and beyond. This is something that's not not going to go away in 3 years, not going to go away in 5 years, but it's going to continue to get smaller and smaller. And in Kingsville, we're not really that sophisticated, I would say. How we measure success, and then Lyle can attest to this because he's the one I use. A section of drain that we did in 2015 took us an hour. Actually, 2014 took us an hour. 2015 probably took us 50 minutes to do that same section of drain. 2016, we're probably down to 35 or 40 minutes. So we're getting it. Will we ever eradicate it? That's my hope. But just in 2 years, we're probably at a 30 to 40% kill rate. So it gives us hope. It lets us know that what we're doing is working. If we were to continue to do this and not have any evidence that we're actually doing anything, that $85,000 that I'm asking council to give us probably wouldn't happen. It's stuff like this that Kevin, and thank you Kevin for putting this together, stuff like this that you get people together and they get to see how important the problem is and how big the problem is, and they can actually see that something's being done. If you remember, well, I remember when the recycle program started. I was older and I didn't really, I didn't think recycling was important. But as it turned out, I was taught by my kids at the time the importance of recycling and how it benefits future generations. I think that if we were to educate people, we have to educate obviously the politicians up top because they're the ones that are holding the purse strings. We got to educate the people, the people that know the situation, that know the problem exists. We have to educate them that how we're dealing with it. And for the people that don't know what the problem is, we have to educate them that there is a serious problem. But what I really think, we have to start going to schools. We have to start educating the kids at the younger levels. Because a lot of the frag that you see, well, basically all the frag you see was brought in as an ornamental plant. And there are still people that use this as an ornamental plant, and it is actually, it's bad. It's bad stuff, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It's a monoculture. It kills out other plants. It kills out all kinds of life. There's really nothing good or pretty about it. And we need to get the young people to tell us that there's nothing good about it. And unless we do something, this is going to continue to grow. The only solution that we don't have is to do nothing. We have to do something. Am I doing everything that I can to control the frag? I think I am. But in Kingsville, we were the first ones to do this. So we didn't have anyone to fall back on now, to ask them, how do you do it? We just kind of went along and we figured it out as we went. Now, Luann and Leamington is doing it. And now, Luann's a lot smarter than me. So I get to ask her questions. And we get to collaborate back and forth. How are you doing it? Is it working? What are you doing different than I am? So now there's someone right next door to me that we're working together. It's awesome. But we're doing something, which we're hoping other people, other drainage superintendents, other municipalities get involved and do the same thing. As I said, by being proactive, we'll see the current Phragmites problem shrink. Evidence proven in Kingsville. We actually want to see it shrink, just like George Costanza on Seinfeld. George had a shrinkage problem in that little episode. I don't know if you guys saw that episode, but we want to deal with Phrag just like Costanza. Like I said, we're 3 years into it. Next year will be our 4th year. I'm not sure when I'm going to win, but I know one day I'm going to do it. We're going to do it. It might even be beyond my term as drainage superintendent, but we're going to get it. Because, and Luann can attest to it, when it rains, as a drainage superintendent, you kind of panic a little bit. You know, there's flooding issues, and you don't want that. Actually, what I want is to be like Andy Dufresne from Shawshank Redemption. When it rains, I want to go out there and I just want to enjoy it. I don't want to be worried about people calling me because of flood. So that, my friends, is my presentation, and that's how we do it in Kingsville.